Right. Well, I am so excited, Rebecca, to welcome you to the Motherwells Well-Informed series. We just really appreciate your partnership to get this information out to young moms. I know that it's very valuable to be able to sleep well and um, have the kind of calm house where being a family is enjoyable. So, we'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background, and I'm excited to listen to the presentation.
All right, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and my background's in my slides, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. We're talking about today about why a rested house is a calm house, because it's just one of those things that once we have a calm house, we can do so much more with our family. So before becoming a hold on one second. Let me get started here again. So my name is Rebecca Stiglitz. I am a postpartum doula and pediatric sleep consultant. I am a mom of 3 teenagers and 2 dogs, and I've been married to my husband for 21 years this August. So it's kind of hard to believe that we have been married for 21 years. Um, and here is a picture of my family. So before I became a doula and a sleep consultant, I was a math teacher. So whenever I talk to my clients, I come from a place of education and teaching. And so it's always what I'm doing whenever I talk to my clients with either sleeping or my postpartum doula clients. And so before this, I taught mostly middle school math in the public and private sector. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. So I understand young kids and I love children. And it was just time to move on to try something different when I became a postpartum doula and sleep consultant. So what does a postpartum doula do? Because people hear that title now and they're like, what does that mean? It means that I help moms rest during the most vulnerable part of motherhood, their new babies. When the new baby comes home into your house, the life changes and it can be hard to get the rest you need and deserve while you're healing. We come home from the hospital, and most of the time we have other children and they need us. They want dinner, they want your attention, they want just everything that you don't have the energy to give them because you're feeding the baby or just tired and resting from a C-section or your delivery. And I don't know about you, but when I had my children, my parents were both working full time and my in-laws lived out of state. So we did not have that support that some people have where grandma comes over every day and can help out with the house. So I had to figure out a lot of it on my own. So when I figured out that postpartum doula was a job, I was ecstatic because I was able to give moms this support that everybody needs when they have a baby. And so what I do is I pick up the slack that gets dropped when you have a baby. So I help out with baby care. I help out with your older kids so you can take care of the baby. If you want to play with your older children, then I can watch the baby. I cook dinner many times. I get snacks put together. If I come to your house, I have vegetables are always in your refrigerator with some hummus so that you always have a healthy snack for you to enjoy when you have a moment. And we troubleshoot. We troubleshoot your feeding and nursing struggles. We troubleshoot sleep issues. And I am just a calm presence in your home because many times that brand new baby can lead to so much stress. And you, especially with first time parents, you don't know quite what to do to get your baby to calm down. And their biggest comment, my clients tell me, is that the baby just calms when you're there. And I'm like, it's just because I've been doing this a lot longer than they have. And so the my clients tell me that the recovery time has been a lot shorter once they have me either is overnight or during the day because they are able to take that rest, and then their nursing journey can be so much smoother because they have someone to troubleshoot with and to just make sure that they are getting what they need. And so the other thing I do is a lot of baby education during those first 6 to 12 weeks. So I might help with a bath. I might teach baby parents how to swaddle, how to give a bottle, all those little things that we think we know. And then all of a sudden the baby's here and we have no idea what we're doing anymore. And so, as sleep consultant, I teach parents how to get their own children to fall asleep without the aid of crutches, so you can have a moment to yourself at night. So, it's virtual hand holding. I am there by text or a phone call if need be to just help you through it. We troubleshoot in the moment. And we just get your kids to fall asleep on their own without having to always have you sitting by their side and holding their hand, because you need that time to yourself as well. All right. So my story, because it's important. This was my house. We lived in a little house in Park Forest. It was 950 square feet. It was 2 bedrooms, and I had 3 kids. So I had 3 kids in one bedroom. My husband and I had the other one, and they were 4, 2, and the baby. So there was no place to put anybody else and give them the opportunity to fall asleep on their own and give them the opportunity to work through it. And if I would have done it differently now, I probably would have sent the older one to grandma's house when we sleep trained the younger one. But no one told me I should do that. So that's where I like where having that sleep consultant comes in, because I can say that, like, if you have grandma that lives 20 minutes down the road, send the big kid to spend the night at grandma's house for the day or for a couple of days, and then you can work on the little one and you don't have to worry about them waking the whole house up. Um, when we moved into our bigger house, we did sleep train our children. We got them to sleep in their own rooms. It was mostly my 6-year-old and 4-year-old. It took some time. Now that I've been a sleep consultant, I know that I could have done it a little bit faster, but it took a couple of weeks, but we were able to do it and get it done. Um, and so when I became a sleep consultant, I knew I wanted to help other parents get through this so that they wouldn't have to go through the same thing that I did. All right, so we're going to talk about why a rested house is a calm house. And so, do you ever find yourself as a parent getting touched out because your kid will only sleep on you? Do you find yourself staying up way too late because midnight is the only time you have for yourself? I know that I did that a lot when my kids were young. My husband would come out to go to the bathroom and he's like, "Why are you still awake?" And I would always say, "Because no one's talking to me." And bedtime can be such a frustration when you and your children are fighting over when to go to bed and how to go to sleep and everything else like that. So we really want this to be calm when we do bedtime, and we want everything to go to bed, or everyone to go to bed on their own without support and without struggle. When you are having this and your parents or your children are going to bed without struggle, parents, you get time together. You get the ability to go to bed at that reasonable hour. You have time to think adult thoughts and talk to your spouse about anything you guys need to talk about. And you get less bedtime battles. Now, mine are all teenagers, so I end up going to bed half the time before my kids, but they do go to bed on their own, and we don't worry about that anymore. And the children get a full night's sleep. They get good quality rest, and they know the expectations of your house so that they can live up to those expectations. Now, what I am going to tell you is every family is different. Your family is different from the family down the street. They're from down the street. If your routine is working for you, stick with it. If you're happy with how bedtime goes at your house, then great. I love it. But parents don't have a problem with their bedtime routine until they do. And that's when they call me. When we have the 2-year-old who needs mom to lay with her at bedtime is great until mom's 9 months pregnant and dad works nights. The 6-month-old sleeping in your bed is great until the 3-year-old wants to join you as well. And then dad's sleeping on the couch because there's no more room in the bed for him. Your 12-month-old waking 4 times a night to nurse is fine until mom has to go back to work. And then she's like, "I can't do this anymore." So parents don't call me when things are going well. They call me when they're desperate. And that's when I step in to help them get their lives and their bedtimes back together. So some statistics about sleep and behavior that I found were interesting. We all know that sleep affects the whole family. Um, if kids aren't sleeping, mom and dad aren't sleeping. So 95% that say that good sleep is essential to the overall family function. 9 in 10 parents report that good sleep improves behavior and mood. Nearly 7 and out of 10 parents say poor sleep negatively affects their child's mood and daytime functioning. And 4 in 5 parents say their own sleep suffers when their child sleeps poorly. And I have a feeling that other 1 in 5 parents is the dads who don't wake up, and it's always the mom. Because if your kid is awake at night, then your sleep is suffering. And that information came from the National Sleep Foundation. Um, Sorry, I'm just sleeping through. Gonna take a break. Our kids aren't sleeping enough is another thing that we find out. That half of children, 44%, don't get consistent recommended amounts of sleep for their age, and young children are especially likely to fall short. When we allow our children to dictate their sleep to us, and we don't set those firm boundaries around sleep and rest, we risk the sleep of our whole family. Young children should nap at regular, consistent times, and older children should have a bedtime that's appropriate to their age. And even older children who no longer nap can benefit from having a quiet rest time, especially if you're a stay at home mom. Everybody can use some quiet rest during the day. And they don't have to sleep, but they have to be in their room and doing something on their own. When you have older children and they have devices, they should be off and put away every night for proper sleep. Take the devices out of their children's room. They don't need to have their iPads, TVs, phones in their room when they're going to bed. Take those out so that they have time to truly recharge and get back to a good place of rest. All right, so just some sleep recommendations that I'm not going to read these out loud to you because everybody can read, but this is showing what your child should be sleeping over the course of 24 hours. So when you're looking at like that 4 to 12 month age, that 12 to 16 hours of sleep includes 12 hours of overnight sleep plus 4 hours of naps over the course of the day. So they might be an hour and a half, they might be 2 hours each. It really depends on your kid and their routine, because if they're in daycare, they might not be allowed to have those 3 naps that you would normally do at home, but we want to just make sure they have that sleep that they're getting. And those kids who are like 3 to 5 years old, they might still nap, they might not. It's really just dependent on your kid. Okay, so my best piece of parenting advice, this is really not anything to do with sleep, but I learned about it from a teacher friend, and it's getting rid of the word okay. Because when we say okay to a kid, we give our kid a choice. They have the ability to say no, and we want to replace it with something like yes, mom, or yes, dad, or something similar. I use the word got it. So we want to acknowledge that they've heard you when you give them a command of sorts. So I need you to go clean your room. Got it? And then you expect a response back. It's time to go to bed. Yes, mom. Because once we put the word okay in there, it's time to go to bed. Okay. Well, now they can say no. They're playing, they're busy, they're doing whatever they want to do. So get rid of that word from your vocabulary. And most parents find that once I tell them that, they're like, oh my goodness, I say okay like all the time. All right, so when we start changing a routine, we want to start with a family meeting. And so we always want to present a united front to our parents. We want to make sure that mom and dad are on the same page. We want them to be reminded that you are the grown up and that you make the decisions for the family. So sometimes it's like we're sitting the kids down and we say we're going to redo bedtime because this is not working. Mom and dad are in charge here. We are doing things that are best for our family, and then the kids need to fall in line. And we want to role play our situations. And so before that, I want to talk about that. When we're presenting that united front to our parents of our parents, we want to make sure that even if mom is doing bedtime because dad's working, or dad's doing bedtime because mom's working, that the original, like, this is what's going on because of this is for our family, comes from both parents together, because the kids need to see that you're working together as a family unit. And so we want to role play what our new routine should look like. We want to role play when they're happy and they're fed, and it's a couple of hours before bedtime. We're going to go up to the room. We may put a pillow or blanket on the floor because you're too big to go in their bed. And this works best when the kids are like 2 to 5 years old. And we're going to get in bed and we're going to go through our whole bedtime routine. We're going to get in bed. We're going to lay our head on our pillow. And then we might start speaking out loud the thoughts that we would have, like, oh, I really want to go see what mom and dad are doing, but mom told me I need to stay in my bed and I'm supposed to sing a song to my teddy bear if I want to get out of my bed. So then I'm going to sing a song to my teddy bear. But when we role play these things, the kids see what is expected and they see how to handle things that they could not think in their own head because they're just too young. But when they see it happening, they can experience it a little bit better. And we want to, we can do this either just the day before the day of this change, or if your kid needs a little bit more time, we can give them a couple of days of role playing before we start this new thing. Sorry, I just lost there we go. So we're going to fix our bedtime battles by doing a couple of things. So most of those bedtime battles start with a lack of routine. Kids thrive on routine. They like to know what's happening next. They hate when things change. Um, they want to know. And even in elementary school, when we have to change a routine, we have to let them know first thing in the morning, like, this is how things are going today. This is different. So the kid knows that the routine is changing. So we want to keep those consistent routines, but we don't want long routines because long routines make it very difficult when you go out of town and you're at grandma's house or you're coming home late from an activity and you don't want to have this crazy routine. So we want something simple that takes about 15 minutes. And hold on. All right. So sorry, I lost my train of thought there. You want to have time with your spouse. So we want about 15 minutes of a bedtime routine, and you should not be falling asleep with your child in their bed during bedtime. But snuggles are okay. So if you want to snuggle with your kid for 10 minutes before they go to sleep, you're going to snuggle for 10 minutes. You're going to give them one extra hug and kiss, and then you're going to leave the room so they can go to sleep on their own. And so a sample routine might look like something like this, where we have a bottle or nursing if that's age appropriate for your child. That is in addition to that 15 minutes because that bottle can take a long time to get done. We're going to do that with the lights on so that baby is not falling asleep while you are nursing them or giving them their bottle, because that is a whole nother thing that we'll have a discussion about. But we're going to brush our teeth. Then we're going to read your child one book. We're going to just do one because that's the routine. We read one book in our bed. We're going to sing a song, or we're going to say our prayers. We're going to turn on our white noise and turn off our lights, and then they go to bed. You don't need to do a bath every night. You don't have to give a massage every night. You don't need to read 5 books. Both parents should be involved because at some point, mom's going to want to leave for a night, or dad's going to want to go out of town, or however things are happening, or you just need a break and you're like, I'm going to sit on this couch, and you're going to put the kids to bed. And the kid needs to be okay with both parents doing bedtime routine. We did it when we had multiple kids, especially in the same bedroom, and my older ones could stay up a little bit later. We did bedtime with the whole family at once because that way we were able to read like a family book or do a Bible story. And then after the littlest one was put in bed, the other 2 were able to come out and hang out with mom and dad a little bit longer. And the little one knew that she went to bed before them, and that was okay because that was how we do things in our family. Okay. Now, sleep training is something that gets a lot of discussion in moms groups because we hear sleep training and we think we are putting our kids in their bed and we're walking out of the door and we're closing the door for hours. And that is not what sleep training is. First of all, sleep training your child doesn't mean you have to wean overnight. If you are nursing your child and you want your child to still nurse overnight, you are welcome to do that. We are just teaching your child to fall asleep on their own. We're falling asleep in our own bed without you having to be in the room. That is what sleep training is. It allows you to have a minute for yourself and to not be tied to your child's schedule every time they go to bed, because you can put them in their room, you give them a kiss goodnight, and then they go to sleep. Now, there are some different sleep trainings that that we can use, that I use as a sleep consultant, and there are some more out there. Everything that I teach you as a sleep consultant, you can find online. It's just having me personally there to help guide you through it and coach you through it, which is makes me worth having me in your corner. Just because you've gotten into habits you're not proud of doesn't mean the habits need to stay. It's never too late to change your routine. So we can do chair method, where you sit next to your child's bed in a chair and you gradually work yourself out of the bedroom. You can do check and console, where you put your kid to bed and you leave the room, and then a couple minutes later you come back and you check on them, and you just check here and there as you go through the night, or as they wind themselves down and get themselves to sleep. And then there is extinction, and that is when you do close the door and walk away. And for some kids, extinction is what they need, because check and console or chair method will cause them to amp up more than going to sleep, where they just need that time to work through those tears. And when we are learning anything new, we will always have tears. I know I always cried about spelling when I was young. I taught math for many years, and kids cried about math. And some kids are going to cry about learning how to sleep, because it's a new skill and we're expecting things of them. And when we learn new skills, we have a tendency to cry. And having good habits from birth helps, but it's never too late to start and to get back into those good routines. And again, as I said before, parents are fine with the bedtime routine until one day they are not. And that's when they come to talk to me. Your sleep routine is your sleep routine, and you need to do what works for your family. All right. Now, I don't know about you, but when my kids were younger, they'd like to come and visit me in the middle of the night. And when that happens, you need to have a plan, because otherwise we just pull our kids into bed and try to go back to sleep. And so it's either a habit or something's wrong. So you need to first figure out, what is that? Is it a habit that every night at 2 a.m. they finish the sleep cycle and then they come visit you so you can put them back to sleep? Or is something truly the matter? Do they have a bloody nose? Do they have a tummy ache? Did they have a bad dream? And so young children, I don't know about you, but my kids always liked to do the baby Olympics when they were in bed with me. They would turn circles, they smack you in the face, kick you in the tummy, and you're like, how do I sleep with this child climbing all over me? Bigger children stay in one spot, but they limit your ability to move. And I always know that when my kids slept in bed with me, I'd wake up, my shoulder would be achy, I'd have a little bit of a crink in my neck. And that was something that I was not willing to have anymore. And so we had to start working on sleep training and staying in our beds through the night. And so now there are 3 responses you can have when your kid wakes you up in the middle of the night and comes into your room. You can bring them back to their own bed. You can bring them into bed with you, and you could give them a blanket or a pillow on the floor. Those 3 options are pretty much the easiest, the 3 things you can do. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. When you pull our child into bed with us, it helps them go to sleep quickly, but then how do you sleep? Do you have to put them back into their bed once they're asleep and then they wake up and they come back to you again? If you put a blanket and pillow on the floor, might be a happy medium. We did that for my kids a lot, and finally they got tired of sleeping on the floor and they went back to their own bed. And then when we bring them back to bed and we quietly walk them back to their room, we're telling them that their room is a safe space and that they shouldn't be scared, and it's okay for them to be in their own bed. When we always allow them to sleep in our bed, then we're telling them that it's okay because your room's no longer safe, but we want them to know that their room is safe. And if our child can fall asleep on their own at bedtime, but comes out of habits to you to visit them in the middle of the night, again, we're telling them that their space is no longer safe and they need to come talk to you. But we want to put them back in their beds overnight. All right, some stories from my clients. I had a child, her initial L. She was making up multiple times a night and refusing to go back to sleep without her mom. Mom did a lot of consistent work with her. We worked probably for about a month because at first mom was not willing to have any tears. And then as we started working through it, she figured out her routine. And she said one day she looked at her and she's like, "You are going to bed. You are staying in her bed." And she would talk to her through her monitor. And she would be like, "Elle, you're safe. I love you. Go to sleep." And she goes, there was one night where she slept all night long and she messaged me in the morning and she's like, "Who is this alien and where did you put my child?" And ever since then, she's been sleeping through that night and has figured it out, because once they figure it out, then they can put themselves back to sleep in the middle of the night. I have overnight clients that I work with as a postpartum doula, and we have baby Q, who is at 8 weeks, sleeps from about 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. So we feed her a bottle, we put her to bed, and she sleeps through till 4 a.m. because we have worked with her with good sleep habits since birth. And we work on an eat, play, sleep routine with her. So she eats, we chat for a minute because she's 8 weeks old. So we just chat and she goes right back to sleep in the middle of the night. It's not anything. I'm not letting her nurse herself to sleep, because then she knows when she wakes up in the middle of the night, she knows how to put herself back to sleep. And then I have baby S, who is 16 weeks, and he goes to sleep on his own. He wakes once or twice at night to nurse, and then he goes back to sleep as well. Mom is a nurse practitioner and has been doing a lot of night work. So she actually likes the contact naps during the day because she doesn't get to snuggle him as much because she's recently gone back to work. And that's okay, because again, if you're happy with your sleep routine, then it's perfect for you. And we've been talking about how to get him to sleep on his own during naps. But as I told her, it's when you are ready to do that, then we will work through that together. All right, so some general tips about sleep that I think every parent needs to know. And the first one is sleep begets sleep. The better a kid sleeps during the day, the easier it is to fall asleep at night. We want to resist the urge to keep the baby awake all day. It seems counterintuitive. You're like, you can keep the baby awake all day and then they're going to sleep for hours and hours and hours at night. It doesn't work like that with young children. They need that consistent sleep during the day so then they can sleep during the night. I don't at times where we've missed a nap and we put the kid to bed late and we're like, okay, it's 11 o'clock, we're finally getting to bed and the kid's going to sleep, till like 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. What time does the kid wake up? 5 a.m. because sleep begets sleep. The other thing we want to do, especially with young babies, is we want to follow those wake windows. We want to watch for that baby for when they're showing those signs of tiredness, the yawning, the disassociation, the rubbing the eyes. And that's when we know we need to put them to bed. When we miss that wake window, then the kid becomes overtired and they are harder to sleep, harder to put down to sleep. And we don't want that. So we want to keep an eye on those wake windows and know that when baby wakes up, and especially like I have a 3-week-old I'm working with right now, she's up and within an hour of her waking up, she's back down to sleep again. And so we want to keep an eye on those so that we know when it's time to put that baby to bed. We want to limit the nap lengths. And this is one that's harder, especially for our older generation of grandparents, because they were told to never wake a sleeping baby. And we've learned that we should wake our sleeping babies. So if you know that the first nap of the day is supposed to be an hour and a half, and there is no sickness at your house or no activity that we need to adjust for, then at that hour and a half mark, wake that baby up so that they'll be ready to go down for their next nap. Because when we let them sleep 3+ hours, then we're messing up bedtime. And now this is saying this looking on a normal day. When we are going to a family party and you know that you're going to be out late, then yeah, let the kids sleep a little later during that last nap so that they are refreshed and ready to be they're ready to enjoy that rest of that evening with the family. In the evenings, when it's about time to bed, we want to wind down in the evenings. Now, some kids are going to need to get their wiggles out before they go to bed. So if you have a kid who's always go, 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 go. Sometimes you need to let them go, 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 go right before they go to bed. So have a dance party in the living room, do some jumping jacks. You know your kid. So figure out what they need to do so that they are ready to go to bed when it's bedtime. We want to limit our screens an hour before bedtime, turn off the TVs, turn off the tablets, turn off the phones, relax, read those 5 books your kid wants to read. If your kids are older, play a game with them. Um, over yeah, just enjoy some family time right before bed. Over kids time, excuse me, overtired kids act out, they don't sleep. So when you have an overtired kid, they're going to act out because they're unsure how to regulate those emotions. They're harder to put to bed. And some kids, as I said before in this presentation, thrive on that strict schedule. You know your kid, don't put them in situations where they're going to struggle. If you know they need a 1 o'clock nap and the party starts at 1 o'clock, join the party later. Come in at 2. Um, or if you know they need that 7 o'clock bedtime and that party is going to go on till 10, and from 7 to 10, your child's a bear, leave early. That you tell my kid needs to go to bed, and that's what we are doing for our family. Or just have a place in, like if you're going to grandma's house where your kid is confident in napping, have a safe space for them so that they can go to bed and know that you are safe and you don't have to worry about um, them. And the last thing is always to just be consistent. If you're consistent with your routine, again, your kids thrive on that schedule and they will work towards that level of consistency. I'm going to open it up for any questions before I finish up my last few slides.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, if for all of this information. I have a ton of questions. I don't know if you want to like pop off the presentation
Sure.
so you can see me.
Yes.
Might be a little bit more interactive and interesting.
All right. There we go.
Oh, well, thank you. I know it's always great talking to yourself for like 30 minutes, but you did really good. So from the top, I really loved your point about having the older one in with the parents while you're sleep training. I thought that was a great idea. Sadly, when my kids were younger, I was not close to parents. And so I was just wondering, have you seen other creative ideas for those people who might not have parental support around?
You could send them to grandma, or not grandma's house because grandmas aren't there right there, but if you have a close neighbor,
Hmm.
neighbors work, they can go have them. We always like to call them mini sleepovers at the
Hmm.
neighbor's house. So you would send them over, and then around like 10 or 11 o'clock, you go and you pick them up and then you bring them home.
Oh, okay. So not necessarily a full overnight, but at
But
least get him
just
out of the house for that
get them
time.
out of the house for the day. Or if, depending on how old they are and how late they can stay up, send them to the park with one of the other parents.
Yeah.
Like let them have some little special extra time so that one parent can work on sleep training, the other parent can spend time, and then you can always flip flop it the next night, so that we're talking about having both parents involved. But
Yeah.
yeah, my kids always loved a mini sleepover,
Yeah.
um, because then you're going over, but you're not having to worry about spending the whole night at someone else's house that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know if my oldest kid would have actually been willing to sleep at somebody else's house, but he would have loved getting to stay up late and
Right.
like being with a friend or something. My next question is, and you kind of touched on it in your presentation, is the transition from 1 to 2 kids or
Yes.
like 2 to 3. Like you mentioned of like, it works until it doesn't. And I think this is what made me think of it is like, maybe that first child has been sleeping with you, but then all of a sudden you introduce a baby to the mix. What have you seen as circumstances where like what was working doesn't anymore because you've introduced a new body to the room?
Right. A lot of parents try to get this first kid sleep trained before that second kid comes. So a lot of parents will reach out at about 6 months because they realize like this isn't going to work. I did one of my first postpartum doula clients. I was at her house from about 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the evening because her husband worked and they had the new baby, and their older one still wanted mom to put her to bed, and then mom was pumping, and so there were all these different parts, and she's like, I need someone to take the baby.
Hmm. Yep.
And so I would go over there and she would basically like hand me the baby and then go through her sleep routine with the older one. And they did get to a point where she finally got her to be able to go to sleep on her own. But you do need that second set of hands because someone needs to take the baby and someone needs to do that sleep training. It's really hard to do sleep training when you're also holding the baby because then the older one's upset because, well, you're paying attention to the little one and not to me.
Yes. That
And then
dynamic always happens.
the little one you can't necessarily set down
Mhm.
depending on how old they are at bedtime. There's no guarantee that your newborn is going to be sleeping at 7 o'clock when you're putting your 3 year old to bed.
Yeah, I was very lucky that my husband was around and available in the evenings during sleep times. But that does get me to another one of my questions,
Give me
which
one
is,
second. I'm going to turn
yeah,
on a light. My screen just it got dark in my house.
I know it's like the sunset all of a sudden. I've got these nice west-facing windows, and so I get the light streaming in until about 8:30, and then it just goes dark.
Yeah, mine. I get good like afternoon sun
Hmm.
in my space, but it's like all of a sudden it gets dark and I'm like, oh my goodness.
I know, you're like in a closet. Okay, so that led me to um, what or how have you handled, or what would you recommend for a couple, or maybe they aren't aligned on sleep training? Maybe one is more apt to help bad habits stay around. What would your advice be for that?
The parents have to be in agreement
Mm.
because if one parent can't do it, then it's going to fail. I've suggested to parents that the parent who can handle it does it, and the other parent leaves for the evening
Mhm.
because sometimes it's what you have to do. But then I did have a client that started sleep training. Mom made it 3 minutes with the tears and said, no, I'm not doing this. And I
Mhm.
actually ended up refunding them their money because they just, her husband was on board. Dad was ready. He knew it needed to be done, but mom just couldn't do it. And I'm like, until you guys are in agreement about this, nothing's going to change.
Yep. Yeah, I actually was sleep training my second one, and turns out there was more things going on, but it was a failed sleep training because I think he
Uh huh.
was, let's see, how old would he have been? I think he was about 16 months old, and I had very successfully sleep trained my oldest and had no issues with it. But with my second one, it was always like the parents not aligning, and we couldn't
Mm-hmm.
really get into the pattern that I wanted, and it was causing problems. And so I waited until my husband was out of town for a week.
Uh
And
huh.
then I was like, okay, now it's my time. I'm going to do it. Like, he can't handle the crying. Turned out my situation was a little bit more complex, and I failed
Right.
his sleep training because my son had medical issues and was in pain all night. And so that's why he was crying.
Right.
I didn't figure out until I thought, okay, maybe he's teething. And I don't normally do pain medication. And then I tried ibuprofen because this is my little tip if I was going to add to yours, just what I
Sure.
figured out with my own kids is I always had the question of, is it teething or is it they just want me? And
Right.
I would test it with a dose of, at the time we were still allowed to give our kids Tylenol, and that was what the doctors were recommending. So I would do a dose of Tylenol. And if they went straight to sleep, I knew, okay, this I know for the next week and a half or whatever, I'm going to be dealing with teething.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would find other solutions besides Tylenol to help with the teething, but then it helped me know like this is not the time to focus on sleep training. But do
Right.
you have thoughts about that? Like when you're dealing with teething or night weaning, what do you do in those situations?
Yeah, that's a lot of just trying to, as you said, it's a lot of troubleshooting of what is um, going on with your kid. Now, it's out of my scope of practice to recommend medicating your kid.
Mm.
So if that's something a parent wants to do, that is their choice. That's something that I would say talk to your doctor about
Yep.
doing first, because I'm not going to tell you to give your kid some
Yes, of
Tylenol
course.
but I do have times where parents have told me like the kid screams every time I put him down, and I say go get some body work done on your kid, find a chiropractor that you trust, go talk to the doctor about having some physical therapy or occupational therapy or just massage, and just see if there's something tension in your kid that is, is exasperated when they lay down.
Mm.
like, and
Yep.
just seeing if there's something else there, because sometimes there is something medical that we don't know until we start sleep training. And then we're like, why is this failing?
Yes. Yeah, I think oftentimes we think the failure is on our part when it's not working because there is something else. And so I agree with you. I did end up having to go through a very long medical process to figure out my son's,
Hmm.
but it was with the help of a chiropractor eventually. Um, I also wanted to make the point as you were talking, that sleep training, it reminds me of what I tell my kids whenever, so like my kids are teenagers and like middle schoolers right now, and I still tell them to go to bed before I go to bed. And they're like, Mom, I don't want to. And I'm like, well, going to bed at a good time is like eating your vegetables. You don't
Right.
like doing it, but you need to because that means you're going to be successful in school and like all of those things. Um,
Yeah.
when I wanted to go. Oh, I actually had a question from Tiffany. She messaged, she
Oh,
said she
sure.
really wanted to join, but this is actually her kid's bedtime.
Of
So
course.
she's not able to. So here's her question. She says, if I intentionally co-slept with my kids from birth to 15 months, is there a certain sweet spot in age or development that would be best to start transitioning the baby over to his own crib or room?
So she's sick. So the baby's 15 months now, is
Hmm.
what she's asking.
Yeah.
No, it's whenever you decide that you need that baby in their own room is the time to do it.
Okay. Do you recommend any process of, I know you went
Um,
through like a lot of
right.
different
With
ways.
a 15-month-old, it really depends on how clingy they are to you. Can you put that baby down and walk away over the like during the course of the day? So like if you set your kid down to play with some toys and then you go to wash some dishes, is your baby having a fit about it, or are they being okay with it? And because if they're okay with it, it's possible that you can just put them in their room and just do some check and console with them. Whereas if they're screaming bloody murder because you walked into the kitchen, then you may have to sit down with them and hold their hand for a night or two in their crib and then slowly work your way out. It really just depends on the kid. There's each one is different and each parent is different. Some parents can be like, yeah, I can deal with all the crying. Other parents are like, if you peep, like you make one little peep, then I'm going to come check on you.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we ended up doing kind of a hybrid, the opposite of your recommendation for older kid,
uh-huh.
where I tried the check and console. That was my method for my older son, and then for my middle son didn't work. And so as time went on, I have never been able to handle somebody else in my bed with me. Like we have a dog, and I know a lot of people let their dogs sleep with them. Like I refuse. I can't
No.
sleep. I can't. So the closest I got to co-sleeping was one of those like bassinets that attach to your bed,
Hmm.
which I really enjoyed with my daughter. But as long as I could have a physical separation, like she's not touching me, but I can touch her if she like
Right.
messes. And so with my kids, when the check-in console didn't work, I ended up setting up like a little mattress in the bedroom with my kids. And so
Hmm.
then my husband and I would switch off. And so one night I would go in there with him, and then my husband would, and we would then either end up falling asleep in there with them, or we would just get up after they fell asleep and go to our own
Right.
room. And
And
so
you
that did end up working.
Right. And then you just kind of slowly work yourself and you move that mattress. It's the chair method. You're kind of slowly moving that
Exactly.
mattress out the door
Yep.
until one day you're like, I'm going to sit here at the door and you're going to stay in your
Yes.
bed. And then one day
Exactly.
we're going to close the door, but I'm right outside the door.
Yep.
And
And
like sleep training like that doesn't work until that door is closed and you are
yep,
officially out of the room. And we
exactly.
did something similar with that with our kids. Yeah.
I I do the same thing even whenever my kids were younger and they would have sleepovers because I was not willing to let my kids at 5 and 6 year old having a sleepover stay up until midnight because they
Right.
would if you let them. And so I would do the same thing where I sit on my phone, like doors closed, lights off. I'm on the phone, not letting them talk until they
Uh-huh.
fall asleep. It worked really well.
Exactly.
Um, and then I also had the observation. You made the comment of, I think it was one of the stories you mentioned
Hmm.
where she thought she couldn't do it, and then is the one with the girl name or the kid name with the
L.
L. Yeah.
Yes.
And I just thought it made me think of when you're given a tool it empowers you to do something you didn't think was possible.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts about that or wanted to expound.
Yeah, she just when I first talked to her, she was like, I don't think like she can't do it. And I'm like, yes, she can. And it's a lot of that going back into my education background where like your kid can do it. They just need the opportunity to try.
Yeah,
And a lot of times we don't want to give the kids the opportunity to try.
yeah.
And but once we do, they really rise to the expectation and they are like, oh, like now that I know how to go to sleep, I can go to sleep. And I did love the fact that she would talk to her through the monitor.
I know,
Um,
that's great.
I like it won't work for every kid, but like the fact that she decided, like, let me just talk to her through the monitor, like, you're loved, I love you, go to sleep, you're safe. Because sometimes the kid just needs to hear that and they don't
Mm.
necessarily need you right there. They just need to start hearing that.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah, that was good.
yeah.
And then your point about, sleep begets sleep.
Mhm.
I've found it's been also interesting to see in my own kids that certain ones of my kids need more sleep than others.
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah.
if what you think about that.
It depends on the kid. It depends on the situation. So some kids drop their nap at 2. Some kids need their nap until they're 5.
Hmm.
My kids, when we were about between 2 and 2.5, if they napped, sleep was 10 o'clock at night.
Yep.
Like there was no, it was not happening until 10 o'clock and it would make for the longest nights ever. And it
Hmm.
could be a 15-minute nap in the car or a 2-hour nap like, on the couch. They would not go to bed till 10.
Yeah.
And so when my kids were about 2.5, we cut naps out and we had quiet time. I think I would allow them to watch a show. So I'd go sit in the kitchen
Hmm.
because we had a little tiny house and I'd let them watch a show and I'd go sit in the kitchen and they wouldn't talk to me for a half hour.
Yep.
Um,
It's quiet time for mom. That's what it
right.
is.
I put myself in timeout.
Yes.
But there are kids who at 5 will still lay down and take an hour long nap, and that's okay. It really just
Mhm.
depends on your kid, and that's where we troubleshoot a lot of things too, is like, does your kid need that full amount of sleep or are they better when they have less?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of troubleshooting and a lot of back and forth when we're trying to figure it out, because when you drop that nap, it's hard for everybody.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
knew that I needed time without them before I went to bed.
Yes. Yeah, I'm still struggling with that myself as the kids have gotten older. And we don't allow screens in our kids' bedroom. Of course, they always find
We
ways
don't
around
either.
that. And they try to sneak. But I have noticed, you know, again, every kid is different. And one of my 12-year-old, I find occasionally like he's just falling apart in the afternoon. I'm like, dude, do you need a nap? And sometimes he does. And he will
Uh-huh.
like go in and he'll be like, yeah, I think I do. He'll like go to his room,
I
take
love
a
a good
nap.
nap. My kids, when it's bedtime, all devices go on the kitchen counter to be plugged in.
Yep.
And so everything goes on the kitchen counter to be plugged in, and they are not allowed to bring them up into their rooms overnight. So, and then in the morning, they're down there. And so far, I've had no pushback on that,
That's awesome.
which
Yep.
is amazing because I'm waiting for the one day. But yeah, my kids go to bed after me, especially in the summer, because I have a 17-year-old, and so he's kind of up whenever. And it is sometimes I'm like, I look at him and it will be 9:30, and I'm like, I'm going to bed.
Yes.
I'm like, you guys
Exactly.
go to bed when you're ready. During the school year, we're more strict about bedtime,
Sure.
but I'm like, right during the summer, I'm like, whenever you're ready to go to bed, just know what you have to do in the morning and
Yep.
make sure you're up in time.
Yep. Exactly. Be responsible. Set your own alarm.
Right.
Well, that was the end of my questions, but I would love to know where could people find you or learn more about
Sure. Let
how to
me pull
connect
up my
with you.
presentation one more time. Um, Hold on. Let's see. I have to remember how to do this. Okay. Oh, wait. I'm not screen sharing, am I?
Not yet.
Okay. Give me a second. It's always hard to go
I know. Sorry, I made you go back
back
and
to
forth.
it. No, that's okay. All right. And can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. And then let me get to my slide. I'm just going to have to, oh,
Click through all of it.
there you go. Now you get it in quick time.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Get a recap.
Yes. It's funny because so I've been out of teaching for a year now.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I haven't had to like give a presentation and make a slideshow in a while. And I'm like, it was kind of fun to make it again
Good.
and kind of go back into teacher mode.
Yeah, well, I was impressed that you had animations on every single thing.
I tried not to have too many, but just enough. So,
Hmm.
all right, here's my information. Um, you can, so the, I can talk. I've lost the ability. The QR code brings you to my link tree, which gives you all of this stuff, all the hyperlinks that you can't hyperlink on a presentation. So if you scan the QR code, you'll get to all of these hyperlinks. Here's my phone number if you want to just call me directly. And I don't mind, text me first just because I've been getting a lot of spam calls lately. So text me first so that I know that you're calling me. And then if you, hold on, was there something? No, that was it. If you want to work with me, I am offering a 10% off of any postpartum work that you do with me. So you can scan here to schedule that appointment. That schedules the consultation because I like to chat with my parents before they actually book those postpartum visits because I just need to make sure that the timing works out. And then I'm also offering $100 off a virtual sleep plan with the code Motherwell. So if anybody needs that help with the sleep plan, they are welcome to scan that code, and then that will take them right to my booking website and they can book that call.
Well, that's really sweet of you to offer discounts. That's awesome. And I really appreciate the time you've taken to put this together. And we will probably, you'll see it a little bit on social media where we will post about it and probably steal some shorts from this little webinar and clips to put on social media.
All
But
right.
it will also live in our library, video library. We have quite a bit of content that we're building for moms to be able to have all sorts of resources. And so yours will be included.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much and have a great evening. And hopefully you can catch up on some sleep tonight after
Yeah, I am
last night.
actually heading to work in about a half hour. I
Oh
have
my
my
goodness.
overnight client tonight. So yeah, I get to
Okay.
go and enjoy a little 3-week old. So
Okay. Well, good luck with that and hopefully it goes well tonight. All
thank you.
right.
Bye bye.
Good night.